Alright, what's up, fuckers? So, just want to get this video out of the way before I head to work. So, let's talk about this. Did 2001 change everything? Yeah, I think it did. And it's funny because I kind of look back at this time as the year that changed everything for me in terms of the entertainment industry, society, or just everything in general. And I don't know what it was, but I just look back at a lot of things that happened around this time in 2001. And it seems like since then, things have not been the same. We're going to talk about WCW and ECW going out of business. And that to me was the beginning of the downfall for professional wrestling because of the fact that there was no longer competition. Like, as a kid in the 90s, I was huge into wrestling around those times. Like, I knew what it was like, and it was one of the best freaking times to be a fan, bar none. Because you had three different alternatives of three major wrestling companies. And because we had a competition, we were getting the best wrestling product you could ask for. That was until WCW died for their own stupidity and ECW went bankrupt. Thus led to Vince McMahon purchasing both companies and monopolizing the wrestling world. And we already know how shitty wrestling has gotten since then. Like, I don't even want to get there. Like, hopefully AEW changes that because wrestling right now is just complete and utter dog shit. But, like, yeah, moving on. Then you have Sega leaving the gaming market. I can't really say this was the downfall for gaming unless you were a Sega fan. But this was a pretty sad year for Sega fans, much like myself, because, like, I was a huge into Sega way back in the glory days. In a lot of ways, I've always compared Sega to WCW. And without a shadow of a doubt, Sega is the WCW of gaming. And it's not hard to see why. They both competed against their respected competitions way back in the 90s. They both made stupid S9 decisions to cause their downward spiral. And they both died on the exact same month of March of 2001. Yeah, Sega is still making third party games, which is pretty cool, but they're pretty much a shell of their former selves. And it sucks that the Dreamcast failed because it finally seemed like they were getting things right with a lot of great games. Of course, we all know about the PS2 squashing it, so I'm not even gonna get into that. But I will say it was a pretty good year for Microsoft fans since Microsoft entered the gaming world that year, so yeah. Then we have George W. Bush becoming president that year. Never liked him as president, and it's not for everything he gets slammed for. I mean, people can debate his reactions for the September 11th attacks and the Hurricane Katrina, but ultimately, those were disasters that he had no control over. The 2008 recession, which sunk the world's economy, was not his doing either. Yet, as a sitting president, it became a Bush's recession. That said, he did plunge us into a war with the bulk of the Congress support. Mind you, for the little accounting for scale and cost, No Child Left Behind, his attempt at education reformed, similarly was written and pushed through without accounting for the scope and cost of the nation. Like, I would thus label him as a woolly, irresponsible president who did as much harm against the nation despite well intended actions due to a lack of foresight and cost accounting. But also, Bush took over a year's worth of vacations across the 8 year stint as a president. And I'd say, along with the lackadaisical response to the above major pressing crisis, makes him ill suited for the job. Careless and irresponsible. Worst ever is debatable, but I would say he has been bad for the nation across the board. I mean, he is a man that lied about the weapon of mass destruction to convince the nation to enter a long, protracted war, and whose domestic policies has sunk us further and further into debt. And we remain worse for wear due to his actions. And of course, you all saw this coming 9/11. Now, 2001 was definitely for me the end of the 90s. Because here's the thing, like, by the late 90s, crime had plummeted despite things like the Columbine shooting. the economy exploded, the Cold War was over, our scientific discoveries were growing exponentially, we had the internet and all of the humanity knowledge of our fingertips, a freaking space station, pop culture was seemingly at a high water in the US. You know, like the 90s was a strong period of the strong anti authority themes. People remember the 90s being casual, but even among the slouching and sleeping smiles, there was a lot of resurgence of don't let the man get you down, fuck the police, rage against the machine, whatever. We were going into the next millennium with a bright future ahead. And then it came crashing down around us. 9/11 changed everything. Because since then, life has been more fearful and more real. Some of that would have happened anyways due to the technology, but 9/11 and all of the stuff related to it has opened up a lot of people to the world outside of the USA, and a lot of people have a hard time with that. There were things like over the top, yet ineffective airport security, Patriot Act, never ending war, the increased anti Muslim sentiment, and more disruption in the Middle East. And that's pretty much all I have to say for this video. But let me know what you think down below. But yeah, if you want to make a video response, even though YouTube got rid of that, and just want to go off of what I said, then feel free to do so. But anyways, I'm out, guys. Later.